Audio tests, audio tests. This is a weird place to do this. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Health Chats podcast. I am your host, Kelsey Grieveson, and I'm back in Calgary. And I'm really happy to be back in Calgary after a wild adventure of traveling for the last 5 months. I feel lost, but also equally like I've found so many more parts of myself. And as soon as I got back, I was like, I feel like I need to do a podcast about this, but it felt too early, too fresh. And now that I've been home for a couple of weeks, I'm like, okay, I'm more settled. I think I can share some bits and pieces of like what the heck has been going on. Why did I come back so soon? What was the story supposed to look like? What does it look like now? And all of that. I also recognize that I share like a lot of bits and pieces of my life on social media, and I've chosen that. Do I always want my life to look that way? Not really. I've quite honestly had a bit of a battle with that lately of like, what is too much to share and what do I want to share? The battle is also with one of my core pillars, which is authenticity, which has been a core pillar in creating content from the beginning. And any moment where I feel like I'm slipping out of that and I'm maybe curating too much and trying to keep up with the trends is normally where I'm like, okay, I got to take a step back and figure out like why I'm doing this. It comes back to the why. And my greatest why, and I've had it on my board. I have a whiteboard with a cork board from the beginning, is to spread presence and mindfulness and impact people in that way where you return to yourself. And by returning to yourself, you can connect deeper with others, because I believe you can only give what you have. I truly and deeply believe that. And that starts with self-realization and inner work. And you've been following me, unless this is like your first time here. I feel like I'm the experiment in my life and the experimenter at the same time, where I'm like, okay, let's go put myself out there and figure it out and like lean into the discomfort of things in order to just understand myself more so I can come and serve this to the world through coaching, through yoga, and through just like what I've chosen as my occupation, I guess, which also just deeply feels like my purpose in this life and in this world. So let's take a breath and figure out what I want to talk about today. So I'm currently sitting in my parents' backyard, very familiar place, a home that I have moved in and out of more times than I want to admit. I have had many moments in my early 20s where I was like, okay, I'm out of here for good now. Hallelujah. I made it. I'm into a rental where I'm paying way too much for rent in a city, which makes it nearly impossible to save up to purchase a home. And then I've had other moments where I've paid like nothing for rent and I found the sweet spot, and then life swept me out of there. I don't know if I've shared that story yet, but I was in a place for about a year and a half in Calgary in a trendy neighborhood. It was perfect. I was paying next to nothing. And I was like, this is the universe just aligning for me. Like I can, one, have my own space, have independence, build a foundation of an environment that feels really good, and save money at the same time, where I can invest that money back into my business, which was my main focus at the time, into event, into some savings. I would say like I'm a pretty financially smart person. I'm not really like, just throw it out the window, like whatever, it'll come back. I've been that way, definitely, but yeah, it was ideal. And then while I was living there, I was like, it'd be really nice to share space with someone. I would love to have a roommate. This was a 1-bedroom place. I was like, this place is so perfect, but eating all my meals alone, not fun. I do prefer to share moments like that with people and with someone. And I started just looking at what was available living with roommates and like what those options were. And then the universe, in the funny way that it works, was like, your neighbor is going to have bed bugs, and those bed bugs are going to crawl right into your apartment and literally kicked me out of the space I was living in. So sometimes you got to be careful what you ask for. And I don't mean that literally, but the universe will figure out a way to give you whatever it is that you put out. Whatever you ask for, you will get it. And sometimes it will look like bed bugs infesting your apartment, where you need to sell and get rid of every single piece of furniture because it's made of wood and they store their eggs in there. And yeah, that was my last, I guess, ideal living situation before I found the one after that, which was living with my two best friends. And I've talked about them before, and I love them oh so much. And we had such a good time living together. But now I'm back in Calgary and I'm not living with them. Their house is going through so much stuff right now. So it actually isn't even possible for me to move in there. They're dealing with some water damage and just way too big of a story for me to share. But I am blessed to be able to come back in to my parents' house again. And God, there's so many different directions I can go with this right now. So I came back to Calgary early August because my dad had surgery. This was a planned surgery. We knew this was happening for months. And as you know, I was traveling since April. Like I was gone. I was in Bali. I was in Europe. I was seeing the world, and it was so fun and so magical. And when I left, it was a one-way ticket. I did not have plans to come home. I had the freedom in my life and my schedule to be able to do that, which is incredible. And I really do hope if you haven't had that in your life, you're able to create it so you can have a similar experience. I do believe it's possible for anyone and everyone. You just got to take the right steps to get there. So it was a one-way ticket, and I didn't really know when I was coming home. People were like, "When are you coming home?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And that's okay. And the surgery came and I was like, I can come home. Like I have that freedom. It's not that hard to book a flight if you want to have me there. I asked my mom, I asked my dad, do you need support? And they were both like, no, Kelsey, you're living your life. Like we're good. We've got support. We've got each other. It's a routine surgery. Yeah, we were all a little bit scared, but we were like, it will be fine. And we knew that as a family. And fast forward to the surgery date happening. It happened on a Tuesday. And afterwards, I guess this is the stuff you just don't think of, is like, is the recovery just going to go straight uphill, or are we going to run into some things? And it's the unexpected that you don't want to happen. But of course it did in this moment. And there were many concerns coming out of the surgery. I don't want to get into the specifics, but our fear was very, very high for my dad's life. And I was in Spain eating paella. Let's add some humor to this. Literally eating paella on a Friday night, which would have been like a Friday morning here. And I got a message from my mom, and I called her right away and was like, "You're scaring me. What's going on?" And I asked, put me on speakerphone. I wanted to hear my dad talk. And for the first time in like really any journey, anything I've done, because I've done some pretty far out stuff, he told me to come home. And I knew in that moment, okay, this is serious. And I booked the first flight that I could find on Expedia, and I flew home the next day. Like I was in shambles. I was like bawling my eyes out. I'm living with this random girl, and she's like, "Girl, calm down." And usually I'm the grounded one, but I've never experienced being so far away from my family and people that I love and like deeply care about, and having just like the almost worst happen. And, you know, you do a lot of this mindfulness work and meditation and yoga to prepare yourself for life, right? It's not about what you're doing in the studio. And I say this to my students all the time. Yoga is preparation for what's out there. And no matter how prepared you might feel like you are, or how enlightened you might feel like you are, life's going to throw you stuff and you might react in a way that you never thought. And I bawled. I was just like panicking, hyperventilating. I called my friends. I was like, oh, what do I do with myself? I'm like so far and I want to fly home right now and I can't do that. And then like the financial stress. Oh my God, a flight. It's like $3,000. Like, am I about to spend $3,000? Fuck. That's like so much of my savings right now that I didn't plan to spend. And just all of the thoughts come in. And luckily I was able to do that and fly home the next day and get here by 5 p.m. on the Saturday, which was a lot on the nervous system. But I'm so glad I did, because I think by me coming home, or just the thought of me coming home, that is so powerful and so healing. Like for my dad knowing, oh, I have something to look forward to. I'll always come back to the power of our minds when we have a light at the end of the tunnel. Not that I'm like coming in here to do brain surgery and fix anything, but it's just something for him to look forward to. That shift in thought pattern can literally heal the body. And so, yeah, my mom said that, other people said that, and I was like, okay, good. Like I'm glad to be coming home. And since I got home, it's been waves. Like he's been down, he's been up, he's been down, he's been up, but that's just like proof that growth and healing, it's not linear. It's never how we expect it to look in our minds. That's like, okay, and now we go from A to B to C to D. It doesn't look like that. Sometimes you're like at A and then you're all the way at like U, and then you come all the way back and it's like boom, boom, boom. You're bouncing all over the place. And eventually you get to the end and things get healed, things get fixed. And my favorite quote from John Lennon is, everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. And I just like always come back to that, because the middle parts can sometimes be so uncomfortable and so icky and gooey and sticky. And we're like, I don't want to be in this. But there will be that light at the end. And I deeply believe that. So that's what brought me home. But funny enough, I was already planning to come home and I was going to surprise all my friends and my family. I had a flight booked for the end of August, actually like coming up here in a couple of days, which I had such a good plan. I was going to show up and just like walk in the house and be like, hey guys. I was telling them this was my plan. And I think like lying can be good if it's for a good reason. Other than that, I'm like a speaker of truth always. But yeah, I was going to be like, okay, yeah, I'm boarding my flight. I'm going back to Bali now. Like, whatever, fly, butterfly on your adventure. But then I was going to walk in their house and be like, I'm here. And my friend has a show this weekend. And I was going to show up on stage and all my friends are going to be there and be like, hey, everyone, I'm back. So I'm a little upset about that plan falling through. But I think it was for good reason, because I'm home now and I was planning to come home. And I guess like the big question is like, okay, what was bringing me back home? Because there was parts of me that was like, yeah, I am going to go back to Bali. And I left stuff there. Like there was a train of thought that was like, go back to Bali, continue on. But when I saw my family and friends in Rome, or I guess like Croatia and Rome, it made me realize, I guess, that deeper purpose for me in life. And like maybe not my purpose, but what I think is like the collective life purpose. And it's connection and it's relationships and it's people. And I'm so blessed to have built such deep relationships with my friends and with my family here in Calgary that it was almost like this aha in my brain that's like, why would I leave that behind? Right. And like you've listened to previous podcasts, and if you haven't, like go back and just listen to where my mind's been over the last few months, where I've had the thought of like, yeah, I could go live in Bali and like really stay there and do it permanently and then travel back to Calgary. But I don't know. I've had this huge shift, and maybe it was almost losing a family member who's super close to me that helped make it real. That's like, now I really want to root down and I want that place to be here. I want it to be Calgary. And in rooting down, I believe that's the energy that attracts more stability into your life. And so in that stability, it's like financial stability, a partner, someone to share life with, deeper relationships with the friends that I have, and maybe even building more, career, building up the events and like bringing those back to life. And I guess this is a bit of a vulnerable share, but a pattern that I recognized in myself through this trip, and like Bali's a place. If you're like, I know I've got some unconscious stuff that I'm like not aware of, but I want to bring it to the surface, Bali's the place for that, because it's a giant mirror. It will hold yourself up to yourself and be like, look at this. This is what you need to work on before you can get to the next level in life, or whatever you want to call it. And that unconscious pattern for me that now feels conscious is I tend to leave whether things are good or bad out of fear that I could lose it. Like it could get so good and then I lose it. Or, this is too hard and I don't want to deal with that hard. And this is a past relationship pattern of mine, because in the past, I was in a really healthy relationship. I mean, I don't know if healthy is actually the right word to use. A long-term relationship with healthy bits and pieces of it. And I had a vision of what my life was going to look like. I thought I'd be married. I thought I'd have kids like quite young, early in my 20s. And when that ended, it shattered me. Like the amount of grief and change in my brain that I experienced in such a short period of time, I'm not going to get over that in one night, or even 1 year, or even like a couple of years. And some people, maybe they do. We all kind of move through grief differently. But yeah, Bali helped me see that. And I would say now, coming back, I'm aware of it, and I'm no longer pushing that part of myself away. I'm just like letting myself sit in the discomfort of it and breaking the pattern. So that's me. It's a lot about me right now. And yeah, maybe you can relate to that. Maybe you hear that and you're like, whoa, that's me too. And if it is, reach out. I want to hear it. I would love to get deep with you and like hear about those parts of yourself that maybe are coming up. I would say my age too is a part of it. Like I'm in my late 20s, and I think a lot of people can get stuck in that free-spirited, kind of nomadic lifestyle because it's so easily accessible now. But with that does come a lot of sacrifice in relationships and what you're building, and like being all over the world all the time. It looks really good from the outside, but I think from the inside, it doesn't feel that good. It's very much a lot of instant gratifications. It's new. It's overstimulating all the time. It's delicacy, which is really important to have, but I don't think all the time. I think, and obviously this is my opinion, it's my podcast. I think it's important to have bits and pieces of that, but also be rooted in something really meaningful, even if that meaningful stuff is like a little mundane sometimes, because we're supposed to be bored. And I think that's another thing with life and evolution is we aren't as bored as we used to be. We have constant stimulation all over the place. And I think that probably impacts a lot of the decisions we make. I just saw one of our cats run by. I wonder if he's going to come over here, talk about distractions. But yeah, it impacts the decisions we make in our life. And that's just me like really getting deep down into the rabbit hole of human behavior and our mindset and whatever. So now that I'm back, I like to share my goals. For me, when I share them out loud, it makes them real. And I've shared them with my friends. I've shared them with my family. And I think it's like, yeah, higher stakes. Let's share it with the world, to the 30 people who are going to listen to this. Hopefully more. We're trying to get more views. but I really want to buy a condo. It's just like such a big girl goal for me. But it feels like the right move because then I can be rooted in something that's mine. And I mean, I've had it and then bed bugs came in and it was taken from me. But again, it's higher stakes when it's purchased. It's an investment, like it's an asset that I'm building wealth in and will be able to have for however long until I sell and buy a different one. And like maybe you're already there if you're listening to this and you're like, girl, I've done that, best decision I've ever made. Or maybe you're like, F that, don't be a homeowner, whatever, have your opinions. But for me, it feels like a really good step to root myself down here and almost like not give myself the chance to follow that traumatized mind that has the pattern of running away. But with that goal, it's higher purpose because I've always had this vision of having a retreat center and it will still come, but one step at a time. I will offer private yoga in this space and eventually become a yoga therapist. Yogi goals. And so this is kind of step one to loop back around of why I'm living at home is because, I mean, houses are not free. You got to save money. I'm closer than I thought I would be, which is actually really nice, but you never want to buy a home and like be home poor. Is that what people say? Like house poor, where you buy the house and then you can't really like make it a home and make it cozy. So I don't have a timeline. I'm blessed in that where I can stay here as long as, I mean, we don't drive each other crazy, but yeah. I mean, if I had to throw a timeline, I'd say like 6 months would be awesome, but I'm also not rushed to do it. And through all of this like growing up that I've been doing lately, living with my parents and with my family, we have a really cool dynamic. That's something too that I would say I'm blessed in is like we're all just like human to human. We meet each other where we are. We share all of the things, which I feel like is pretty rare with like child parent relationships. But I think that's why it works is because yeah, we don't really hold anything back and we're honest and we talk about the uncomfortable stuff. We communicate and we're silly and we're weird and we're serious and it's all of it. And so if my parents are listening, I love you guys. And you know that all parts, even when you piss me off and you piss me off, I piss you off. You piss me off twice. There's two of you. Yeah. So that's the update. If you're in Calgary and you're listening to this, I would love to see you. I would love if you came out to a yoga class, if you came out to a free event that I'm hosting. I'm a community girl, so I'm going to be stepping more into the community events so I can just like meet more of you and feel more connected. Even if they're not my events, I want to show up and support everyone. And maybe we could even like go for a coffee or something if we're on that level of connection. So please reach out to me. I would love to hear from you. If you're not here, that's okay too. Please keep supporting, keep listening. I appreciate that more than you know. I know I have some listeners who are like in the States and it's so random and cool that we're able to connect online and just like share goals and kind of mindsets and growth that way. So that's all I have. I appreciate you. I never know how to end these. I should figure that out. Anyways, peace and love and light. Bye.